Hello, and welcome to The Net Result, a show where we explore ideas, innovations, and people making a measurable impact. I'm your host, Ben Smith, and today we're heading into a fascinating intersection of medicine and machine intelligence. My guest is Dr. Logan Nye, physician, computer science, and founder of Galen Health, an AI-driven healthcare startup focused on improving rare disease diagnosis and care. Logan's career path is anything but ordinary, from his global health work to his technical expertise. He's on a mission to do good at scale, bringing the power of AI to some of medicine's toughest challenges. We'll talk about his journey, what Galen Health is building, and how technology can extend the reach of care to people all over the world. So welcome to the show, Logan.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your background. Your path seems to merge two worlds, medicine and computer science. What's the story behind that unique combination?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of the result of some deep thought and reflection about what I wanted to do as uh, a physician over the course of my career, and the timing and circumstances at which I made those decisions. I went to medical school uh, graduated in 2022, and I had always planned to be an orthopedic surgeon. Actually, that was my long-term goal. It was why I went to medical school. And the core driver of that is a desire to help people, essentially, to do good. And the best vehicle I knew of at the time to do good for the world around me and make my living doing so was by being a doctor. And still wholeheartedly believe that is a way to do good in the world. But when I graduated from medical school, I had the opportunity to do a research year at Harvard Medical School building AI for clinical applications. And I had read a little bit about AI before, machine learning in terms of computer vision for image recognition and maybe diagnosing fractures on x-rays and various small sort of niche clinical applications. But during this year, I caught a glimpse of how general purpose the technology is and how big of an enabler it is. And if I, leaned into it the right way, I saw a way that I could amplify that desire to do good instead of just helping one patient at a time, doing it at scale. And so after a year of soul searching and trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do with my body of work over the course of my career, I decided that I would pass on surgery after all that schooling and went back to school at Carnegie Mellon University to get a master's in computer science to
Okay.
learn like the nuts and bolts of building AI from the ground up.
Huh, nice. Okay. Lots of school, lots of advanced school
A
for sure.
lot. It's a lot. I like to joke with people whenever they raise their eyebrows at the amount of school. I just say it just means I have a lot of loans. Is all it means. So,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
So for those just, hearing about Galen Health for the first time, what's the quick elevator pitch for what it's all about?
Yeah. So we are building AI for cancer care. And we're focusing in particular on this special meeting in hospitals called the Multidisciplinary Tumor Board. This is a critical component of cancer care. It's when all of the different medical specialties that treat cancer in various ways come together to brainstorm how to best help their most complex cases. It's a very high value and a crucial meeting in the course of cancer care events, and AI is uniquely positioned to make that meeting even better. Basically, help these patients that are trying to find the best next step of care. Typically, these are patients who have failed the first line of therapy, and now they're trying to figure out, okay, what exactly should we do next? What increases the chances of having a positive outcome from treatment?
Okay. So a little bit more about the AI. How does AI help address the challenges of diagnosing and maybe managing these conditions?
Yeah, so there's two parts of this weekly meeting that are improved by AI. There's the administrative side, and then there's the clinical decision making side. So on the administrative side, there's actually a lot of data preparation that goes into running these meetings each week. To give you an idea of the scale of the problem from a practical standpoint, a tumor board meeting is typically an hour long, and the team might discuss 10 patients, let's say. Gathering the data for each one of those patients takes about 2 hours each. And so this is 2 hours of our clinicians clicking through electronic health records and gathering different parts of the medical history for that one patient. It's about half a working week when you add it all up across everybody's manual repetitive work. And AI can do this much faster and much more efficiently as well. Because people are doing it by hand, we end up only using about 3% or so of the available data for these cancer care decisions. But AI can synthesize all of it automatically. And
Okay.
so that's the first component is all the administrative work and the data aggregation and synthesis that happens before these weekly meetings. During the meeting itself, AI is able to then draw on that body of knowledge and basically participate in the conversation with these care providers. So you'll have in attendance the surgeon, radiologist, radiation oncologist, medical oncologist, pathology is there, nursing is there, anybody that touches cancer care, and they're basically trying to discuss out loud how to best treat this patient. And AI is able to chime in or offer real time insights about what aspects of the patient's history to consider. If they're uniquely suited for a clinical trial that is being run nearby, they can mention that as well. They can draw up relevant research articles. Basically, it can contribute to this conversation in all sorts of ways that enhance it and make it even more effective for deciding on the most optimal.
Okay. So it's looking at notes, imaging, kind of just the entire health record, or is it just kind of analyzing text and making recommendations and contributing to the conversation that way?
A little bit of both. It has the capability of looking at the entirety of the healthcare journey for this patient and making an informed comment or contributing an insight that maybe the team has overlooked or is forgetting, or can even just answer questions directly from the team. They can ask the AI, what is the mutation status on this patient? Like, are they BRCA positive, BRCA negative, HER2 positive, HER2 negative? And the AI can just answer that immediately. They don't have to open up the electronic health record and click through things to stop the flow of the meeting to answer this.
I see. So it helps with like data synthesizing as well. So if something
Mhm.
comes up in conversation, it's kind of like a quick search engine into
Right.
tell through. Okay, that could certainly be helpful. How do you like balance? AI is moving very, very fast these days. How do you balance the pace of AI innovation with sort of the caution and rigor that healthcare demands? What are the precautions that are put in place that something unintended doesn't come out of the AI?
Yeah, so that's an ongoing battle. It's something that we always have to wrestle with. I think a lot of it has to come down to the judgment of how you're designing these systems. For us, what it means is we are the first things that we are automating in these clinical workflows are things that do not actually impact the clinical decisions themselves. So by that I mean it's not going to recommend a treatment or a surgical procedure for a patient on its own accord. It's going to instead provide all the information, all the tools, all the context necessary for the care team to make the optimal decision, and it'll leave that up to them. And so, start with the lowest hanging fruit, the lowest risk cases first. Make sure we really have those nailed down, and as we feel more confident in the capabilities of the AI systems, then we can incrementally contribute to more and more high risk or high value decision making.
Okay. So maybe let's just talk about real world examples. Can you walk us through a scenario, either hypothetically or one that's an actual scenario where Galen could change the outcome for a patient for the better compared to how things at these tumor board meetings happened previously?
Sure. So one example is through trial recommendations. So a lot of decisions are made during the weekly tumor board meeting. And oftentimes it'll be, whether or not the patient is eligible for surgery, whether or not they'll get, neoadjuvant therapy as well, whether or not they'll receive radiation, what kind of chemotherapy and at what dosage, what ordering of the different chemotherapy selections they should go in, and so on. Another important decision that's made during these meetings is assigning them to a clinical trial. Clinical trials are very hard to keep track of with all the things that doctors have to keep top of mind with clinical guidelines, remembering everything about the patient's history and so on. It's just one more piece of trivial information that they might not have a top of mind or they might not be aware of. One thing that AI can do is to scan databases of available clinical trials, whether it be national clinical trials or even internal clinical trials at a given healthcare system, and recommend or bring it to the attention of the care team that that patient is eligible for a clinical trial that they hadn't thought of. That could be life saving for patients.
Hmm.
Um, that's a low hanging fruit for us because it's just giving them access to information that they might not have had at the tip of their fingers, but it could have a huge outcome for the patient. That's just one example.
Okay. Is the AI model you're working with it's focused on cancer care right now and tumors? Do you see it being deployed for other conditions, or is it focused for the indefinite future? just on cancer?
I think it's going to be cancer exclusively for the foreseeable future. And that's simply because you can only work on one item at a time, right? And like
Yeah.
medicine is expansive. The same paradigm, I could see it being applied to other aspects of care, but because tumor board meetings themselves are so complex and cancer is so complex, I think it's going to be enough to keep us occupied for the near term, certainly. So we're
Mhm.
probably going to focus exclusively on cancer, and in particular, specifically on these meetings until we feel like we're in a position that maybe we could expand help other areas.
Okay. What's been your biggest hurdle so far in rolling out the technology itself, or more like cultural, where physicians are a little bit leery to kind of involve something like AI into the thought process?
I think it's option number two from what you said. My co-founder and I are both technical, and so we're able to build technology fairly rapidly and get it deployed. So that's not a bottleneck in terms of rolling out this technology. But just simply letting clinicians know that this technology exists is one challenge that we actively work on, and then also um, clarifying any sort of, let's say, any hesitancy, any anxieties that people have about AI, because for most people, it seems like it's getting the stigma to be like sort of a scary technology or something that can go awry or, you know, have a mind of its own. And you have to sort of clarify or answer any questions before people feel safe deploying it internally, even if it is what we call low hanging fruit uh, sort of applications like aggregating data and automating manual tasks. AI is a very large word, and so we need to clarify assumptions before we are able to move forward inside of hospital systems.
Hmm. So um, I, I'm fascinated all the time by AI and kind of what we do with it for market purposes, and just some of the practical day to day use cases. But when it comes to healthcare and physicians, you see AI as just a tool that will just help with analyzing data, or do you see it evolving into fundamentally something even bigger that kind of redefines the profession over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I certainly think it's going to redefine the profession. I don't know how quickly that'll happen, but bigger question is how that will happen.
Yeah.
Like I said, AI is a very general purpose technology and it's a paradigm shift. And whenever a paradigm shift happens, it's hard to predict where things are going to go in the medium term, so to speak. The first applications always tend to be just automation or applying that new technology to things that are already happening inside of hospitals. But with a genuinely new capability like AI, there's going to be new workflows and new possibilities that maybe don't happen currently inside of healthcare systems that will be a possibility maybe 10, 15 years down the line. A good way to think about that is the advent of mobile. So, like, mobile was a new platform technology that came out when all of a sudden people could readily access internet on their phones. The first thing that they did was had, you know, toy apps that you could buy in the app store or you could browse online. What they didn't foresee is things like social media platforms or Uber, disrupting entire industries and changing the way that people perform certain parts of their lives. That's a medium term effect that nobody could have foreseen when mobile was first rolled out. I think it's going to be similar with AI. Right now, it's easy to grasp what will be automated in the near term, but the medium term is still to be determined.
Hmm. Okay. So tell us a little bit more about the ideal partners that would be a good fit for Galen. Are there any technical prerequisites that must be in place in order for the technology to work? Is it useful for specialized clinics, smaller practices, or is it better deployed over larger healthcare organizations? Like, who's your ideal client, I guess?
So right now we're working with larger cancer centers.
Okay.
The reason being they hold a lot of these tumor board meetings and they're actually required for accreditation purposes to hold them on a weekly basis. There's not just one tumor board that occurs at a given hospital system. In fact, there are many. If you go to a place like a Johns Hopkins or a Stanford or a Mayo Clinic, they'll have over 20 of them happening every week. And so that's where the pain point is most acute and where the need is the highest right now. So we're working mostly with larger academic medical centers, but in the long term, we're going to go not just to these academic medical centers, but into the community as well, so that anybody has access to the same standard of care.
Okay. So what is the end mission of Galen? And if that mission is achieved, how do you think healthcare will look in 10 years?
So this again is kind of broken into phases, near term and long term. In the near term, because we're working on automation use cases for these cancer care teams, the most concrete ROI or metric that we're shooting for is time savings. We just want to take a little bit off of the plates of our care providers and our care teams so they can focus on patient care instead of getting bogged down in the administrative tasks that they're dealing with on a weekly basis. In the longer term, there's an opportunity to use this important meeting and to use the AI that handles all of this data to create really powerful AI for precision oncology. If you think about the decisions that are made during these tumor board meetings, you have all this information about the patient's past medical history. You have these cancer experts who determine why one treatment would work versus another, and they kind of hash this out loud, and then they make a decision, and then you're able to follow the outcomes of those patients. And so, if you're able to record that at multiple tumor boards around the world, then you essentially have a great training data for an AI that has been finely tuned for precision oncology. That can be accessed by anybody, anywhere. You don't have to be at the Mayo Clinic or at Johns Hopkins to receive world class treatment. Instead, the AI could be accessible on a smartphone, and it could be accessed in rural areas or developing nations and anywhere that you have internet access.
Are there any applications now or down the road that could actually just help with the initial plan A to improve the results of the original attempt?
We believe so. I should clarify that it's not exclusively patients who have failed the first line of therapy, because tumor board meetings are so effective for improving patient outcomes. Actually, a large number of cancer centers are starting to just run all their new cancer patients through these tumor boards, and so they'll use them for making the first decision as well. So I think that's something that'll change over time. But regardless, it'll be powerful for that use case.
Okay. So the company itself, what does your team look like in terms of talent? Is it a small team? Is it a large team? What are kind of the backgrounds of the people that are contributing?
Yeah, it's a small team right now. It's myself and my co-founder. We're both computer science trained at Carnegie Mellon. I am myself an MD, and we launched last year. We went through a TechStars accelerator at Johns Hopkins University and got our first customers, so to speak, during that time. And that's when we secured our partnership or our collaboration with Mayo Clinic as well. And so we're building with us two and the teams at Mayo Clinic to deploy these AI teammates for tumor boards.
Okay. What drew you to healthcare in the first place? Is it a role model that you've kind of followed? Is it other personal connections that kind of drew you to this space, or just I'm curious how you went down this path originally?
Yeah, so I grew up on a cattle farm in Ohio,
Okay.
and so many of the careers that I was exposed to from early on were like those that I saw in the community, right? So there's like you could go into construction, you go into farming, you could be a teacher. And my mom happened to be a nurse practitioner, and so she was a nurse practitioner at the Cleveland Clinic. Around my teenage years, I started thinking about what kind of career I wanted, and I knew that I wanted to do something to help other people, right? That was my whole impetus of going to medical school, is to do good in the world. And the best exposure that I got early on for how to accomplish that was by being a doctor.
So Galen hasn't been around for a while. I mean, you went to medical school in
Uh,
22, so we're a few years into, maybe even not that many, deploying um, Galen as a company. Is there any particular moment in the history of the company that you're most proud of, or is it just kind of too early in the adoption to kind of pick out a moment like that?
I think what we're most proud of is making the leap to actually do this.
Mhm.
AI has all sorts of potential, right? AI is going to revolutionize virtually every industry that we can think of right now. But until that happens, somebody has to build it, and somebody has to take the initiative to try to do it and to do it the right way. And I feel like that we had a almost not just an opportunity, but a responsibility because of our positioning and our unique skill set to work on something in this space. So just having the initiative to launch a company, to move out to San Francisco, to work with investors, to work with Mayo Clinic and other giant hospitals, and to move it along. That's been pretty rewarding to go through, and we're hoping that that continues.
What's one question that you wish people would ask you about your work, but they never do?
Other ways that AI is impacting your life personally, like
Yeah.
things that influence my life. So I'm a startup founder. I use AI for brainstorming and coming up with different ideas for running a business because I'm a first time founder myself, but also for scientific research. So we work on cancer care. And so one of the things that AI is able to do very well is like draw from a very large pool of knowledge and inform you on new research hypotheses, or basically doing the equivalent of what would have been a review article in the past. You can ask it to just draft a report on the latest cutting edge research for fill in the blank topic. And so for us, things like how tumor boards are run, the economics of healthcare in the US, which we're still, learning about on a daily basis,
Hmm.
cancer biology, new potential chemotherapy or other therapeutic options. It's a treasure trove for just like continual learning. So if you're an autodidact using AI for not just your business, but for your own like self improvement and your growth, learning about things, it's been really powerful in that respect for me. So I'm building an AI company, but I use AI on a daily basis for things that are outside the company as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's tons of applications. You're being one of them. So if we have people who are kind of interested in following AI and its role in healthcare, are there any specific books or blogs or websites that you kind of follow that you suggest others tune into as well?
There's some great email newsletters if you're one of the people that enjoy that. I enjoy this one called TLDR. It's an online newsletter that just sends you a blast of all the latest developments in different subsets of the AI field. So there's TLDR founders, TLDR AI research. There's another one for I think there's one for finance or crypto, all these different niches. And depending on what your interests are, it'll send you basically automated updates on everything that's happening in the world around you so you can stay on top of the latest developments. So that's been useful for me.
Okay, awesome. Anything else you wanted to share before we wrap up?
I'll end with a very open piece of encouragement for anybody that's listening to this that has considered going into the AI field. Is It's been basically the Wild West. It's wide open. The future is yet to be written, and you are perfectly qualified to work on something that's cutting edge because by virtue of its how fast it moves, AI is always redefining itself. Everything has a shelf life or like a half life of maybe 6 months, and so everybody else is learning just as fast as you are. So you're just as qualified as some of the world experts. If you just stay at the forefront of the field and hang with it for like 6 months, you're among the most knowledgeable people in the world at this new area. So you're more qualified than you think, and you should give it a try if you're really considering it.
Yeah, good advice. I've kind of heard a similar story before. Nobody's really an expert in AI because as soon as you become an expert, it changes anyway. So it's kind of
Yeah,
continuous
that's
learning.
the thing. If you're on the bleeding edge, nobody really knows anything in the first place. So that means by de facto, you're already at the bleeding edge. You're considered just as expert as anybody else. So why not you?
Absolutely. Awesome story. So yeah, Logan, thanks for joining us and sharing, Galen Health with us and telling us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
pleasure. Thanks.
yeah, it's been inspiring to kind of learn how you've merged healthcare and AI and technology into a single company. So it's awesome to follow you. For our listeners, if you want to follow Galen's progress, visit galenhealth.org or connect with Logan on LinkedIn. Are there any other kind of places you'd like people to connect with you, or is it pretty much your website and your LinkedIn?
I think that's about it.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
awesome. Yeah. So this has been another episode of The Net Result. If you enjoyed this conversation, subscribe, share it with someone who might also find it valuable, and join us next time. Until then, keep striving for the net result that matters most.